everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be exploring the new digital imperative, transforming loyalty into a strategic weapon, and then sharing who's doing it well. I'm Erin Reese, and I lead sales and marketing here at Annex Cloud. And I've also been in the space for a long time. I even co-founded Loyalty 360 back in 2008. We're here today with Brendan Witcher, Principal Analyst with Forrester Research. Welcome, Brendan.
Thanks, great to be here.
Just a quick housekeeping before we get going. We're going to try to keep this to about 40-45 minutes, so I'm not sure that we'll have time for in-depth Q&A, but we definitely want to hear all of your questions, so please hit the Q&A button on the screen to give us your questions. We'll make sure to follow up with in-depth answers as well as the video and the PowerPoint once this is over. All right, Brandon, feel free to take it away.
Thanks very much. Good to talk to everybody today. I'm glad to be a part of this and to talk to you about the new digital imperative, how to transform loyalty in a strategic weapon and who's doing it well. So let's talk a little bit about what is the value of an experience. I think that's an important first question that we have to ask is, what is it that we're trying to achieve? What is it we're trying to do? But then take a look at how do we get this experience right? Because if we want to create loyalty with customers, we have to be able to do both sides of this. One of the things that I do during presentations when I do them live is I go through this exercise where I ask audience members to imagine a world where experiences don't quite work for them. And in fact, the example that I use is them walking into a grocery store and seeing that there are no shopping carts anywhere in the grocery store. And then I ask the audience members, they say, well, how many of you would continue being loyal to a company that didn't offer you shopping carts during the grocery shopping trip? And of course, I usually find that very few people will stay loyal. In fact, they will very quickly try to find another grocer that gives them an experience that they want. And in 2019, when I was presenting more to live audiences, I pretty much showed this to about 50,000 different people, just to give you a sense of how big of a group that we were looking at. And what I found is that most consumers would leave and they would try to find somebody else because they knew they had choice. And it didn't really matter if it was motorcycle insurance or banking or whatever it was. Again, we know we have choice. So we're going to go off and find what we need, how we're going to get that experience. And that's the key to being able to create loyalty these days. So what is the value of an experience? What is the value of getting experience right? It is everything these days because consumers know that they have choice. And the other problem that's happening today is that consumers are being able to compare the experience that they have with one type of company with another type of company. Notice on this particular slide right here, it doesn't say, what are your competitors doing? And the reason that I've left that off is because we don't really compare people to their competitors, not as consumers at least. Think about it this way. If you went to a banking website and you had a problem with your account and there was a little virtual agent that popped up and said, oh, what can I help you with? And you said, well, my account seems to be wrong. And it comes back and says, well, we think we fixed it. Take a look. And you take a look and the account is fixed. Great. But then because you're such a busy professional, you go to an insurance website and that website, you see there's a problem with your account there. So you go, okay, well, I'm looking around for a little virtual agent, right? But that person isn't there. That thing isn't there. You see a little link that says, give us a call if you have a problem with your account. As a consumer, are you instantly disappointed? Yes, because you experienced a better experience on your last digital experience. But did you compare that insurance company to another insurance company? The answer to that is no, you did not, because that's not how consumers think. And so this is one of the challenges that we have is that companies today often forget that it's about all the things that consumers experience out there are influencing their expectations for you. And that's why it feels really hard to keep up with consumers. So what we're going to talk about today is how to use loyalty programs and loyalty and knowing who the customer is, how to create that as a strategy and use it as a competitive weapon to win consumers. Now, lots of companies think they have the right tools to be able to impact customers and to create loyalty with them. The reality is that what lots of companies forget is that consumers are individuals. So take a look at this stat here. 61% say I'm unlikely to return to a website does not provide a satisfactory customer experience. Now, that is not a terribly interesting statistic. But what I do find interesting is this word satisfactory, because to each of us, what is satisfactory is going to be different. Right. For some people on a website, as an example, I may want to be able to use product reviews. Other people might want comparison charts. Other people want to look at an image of something and turn it 360 degrees. Other people want easy access to promotions, offers, and coupons, right? It depends. It all depends on who we are as individuals. So Forrester is never going to get on one of these webinars and say, here's a silver bullet for winning customers. The silver bullet is you have to have a strategy for understanding your customers and understanding what they need, what their needs are and what their wants are at the individual level to know why they're shopping with you. What are those shopping cart moments for them? What is that one thing that they need in order to stay loyal to you? So this is what I mean when lots of companies have the right tools and they feel like they're ready to go forward, but they just don't have the impact that they would expect. They're like, well, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing exactly what the Wall Street Journal told me to do, like, what Amazon's doing or whoever, but it's just not having the impact on the customer that I expect. In fact, this is when you get it wrong. This is kind of what it looks like when you get that experience wrong. And so you end up banging on your customers in ways that really doesn't work for them. And they end up trying to find somebody else that can give them the experience that they want. And so we're going to talk today a lot about how to go from really the core and foundational elements of what you need to do all the way to what it looks like as companies who operate under the idea that we want to create a successful loyalty program and create loyalty with our customers through understanding them, through knowing them, providing them value, providing them relevancy throughout the customer journey. This misalignment is not uncommon. When we take a look at something as simple as sort of personalization, you can see that 89% of companies say we're investing in personalizing the customer experience. But over here, you see that 40% of information I get from brands is relevant to my tastes and interests. This is that common disconnect that I see as an analyst all the time. Companies say, well, we do this, but the problem is they're not doing it right, or they're not doing it well. And so what ends up happening is the customer, who's really the judge of whether it's something done right or not, answers in a much lower number than people who say they're doing it. So which number is right here? The number is obviously 40%, because if you get personalization wrong, just as an example, you're not doing personalization, you're doing marketing, right? It's only personalization if you got it right. And so when companies say, oh, we're segmenting and we're putting people into groups, we're understanding personas, we're doing all these things, that's how organizations perceive it. And that's how digital professionals perceive it. But they forget that the other side of the equation is the more important part. What are consumers feeling? What are they experiencing? Is it working for them? If not, it doesn't matter what you're doing if you're doing it wrong. So how are companies addressing this? Well, let's take a look at the way people have addressed it back in 2016. They said, we need to be customer obsessed. And if I could put 3 words after this, it would be blah, blah, blah. Everybody says we're going to be customer obsessed, customer centric, right? In general, what I find is that a lot of companies kind of say, we want to make it convenient, simple, and easy for customers to buy our products and services, right? That is actually the most company obsessed statement you can make. There's nothing really customer obsessed about it. It's really what you want. That's what you're trying to achieve. But when I ask organizations to define some of those things, like specifically do you want to do for customers? They'll say things like, we want this, we want to do that. And we want is a very different statement than our customers want. Again, the top line is more company obsessed opinions. And the bottom line our customers want is really customer obsessed insights. And that's what we need to get to really understand how to provide value to customers and what they're going to need and what they're going to want in order to stay true to your company and keep you top of mindset when they're looking to buy in a certain category. So ask yourself this just for a minute, because when you think about it, you're like, well, what's the big deal? I want you to think for just a moment about how many parts of your business today are being run by opinions. Let's put it as a statement and see kind of how ridiculous that is. Your business run by opinions. Now, I have a few college degrees and I never remember a class that was called Your Business Run by Opinions 101. There's a reason for that. We're not supposed to be doing that, right? We're supposed to be using data and insights and learnings to improve and iterate and get better with our customers and increase customer intelligence and understanding of our business so that we can serve customers better. And frankly, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. That was said by W.R. Deming. I can't take credit for that, but it's a brilliant statement because it's absolutely true. And a lot of companies today are being run by opinions, not by data. And so in 2021 and beyond, the key is to finish the statement. We need to be customer obsessed. Yes, yes, yes. But you also need to be data led as an organization. I'm going to get into that in just a moment here. But lots of companies say that they're data driven. Okay, so Data Driven is a company that I used to work for. Before I did this, I was head of strategy of a company called Guitar Center, for example, and we were a data-driven company for sure. We would go make decisions and then go find data to prove that those decisions were correct. In fact, I remember one specific moment when the CMO came to me and said, "Hey, we want to build a website where people can come talk about their instruments and their love of music and blah, blah, blah. So go find me data to prove that we should do that, because I've already shared the idea with the executive team and the board of directors." So, of course, like a good little analyst, I went out and found data to prove this person was right. And I basically threw away any data that proved that this wouldn't work, right? And this is what data-driven companies do all the time. Data-led companies avoid preconceived notions about their customers, preconceived notions about their business, and they use data at the strategic level to actually make decisions before, after the data is presented to them on which direction to go. Now, I've actually done some work on this and found that many companies that I work with, the common thread among many of them who are being successful is that they are data-led organizations. And that's despite the industry that they are in. These are all data-led organizations. They use data at strategic levels to make the decisions that they make. Now, when I ask companies to self-define themselves about where they sit, this is not me evaluating them. This is how they define themselves. Nearly half of companies say, yeah, we make decisions and then go find data to prove that we're right. Only 11% of companies self-define themselves as a company that uses data before making decisions. And so you can see the problem with that, right? Again, it's a little bit about your vision and the way you think about things and how you need to approach things a little bit differently. Data is the key to being able to be successful with your customers. I know it sounds very unsexy, but if you don't do these foundational elements, I promise you, you cannot create these great experiences because for everything you want to do to make those great experiences, there's 10 things underneath it to make it work right. And a lot of it has to do with being efficient and being effective in utilizing data and your understanding of the customer to create those experiences, okay? Why is it so complicated? And why do I think this is so important? Because a view of the customer is far more complex than it used to be. The companies that I'm working with today, they look at customers through many different lenses. Some of you on this call today are probably looking at this saying, oh yeah, look at that top area. We do age and gender, ethnicity, and income. But unfortunately, for many of you, that's all you have, right? The problem with that is that all men, don't want the same thing at the same time. You say it out loud, and of course it's true, right? And all people 45 years of age do not want the same thing at the same time, right? Each of us is different. And so we need to understand a deeper level of the customer. And as you look around this sort of atomic looking graphic here, you're going to see that there's many parts and pieces of this that you don't know, but that you could pursue to understand what are the triggers, what are the things that customers actually want from us that we can provide value through programs and through understanding them that can make them stay more loyal to us as a brand. How do you do this? You have to exchange value in order to learn about customers. Because lots of people say, well, do we just ask questions? No, you have to exchange value. Now, the thing of it is, I get a lot of pushback on this sometimes. People go, well, people don't want to talk about themselves. They're concerned about privacy. They're concerned about all that. That is a bunch of nonsense. We love talking about ourselves. Let's be super clear here. As long as we're going to get value out of it. Forget that whole Facebook thing. Like that was the only people that didn't know that a free social media site was going to collect data about customers or about their people that used it was a bunch of senators. Okay. The reality is that we all knew that you had to collect data in order for my parents to see pictures of their grandkids, right? The problem with the Facebook thing wasn't that they were collecting data. The problem was that it was used in a way that didn't serve the people who provided the data. That was the big issue. So don't get confused by that. The other proof point of this is take a look at Stitch Fix. Now, I don't know how many of you have signed up for Stitch Fix, but I have. And I'll tell you what, that is a half hour of my life I am never getting back, right? You got to bring a sandwich to this thing to get through it. And I'm not kidding. It does take about a half hour to finish this thing up. And all you do is talk about yourself. And I was talking to Katrina, who's the CEO. I think she's leaving the company, but she was there. She founded it. And she said that over 80% of people finish the sign-up process. Why do they finish it? Because they think there's value at the end of it. We love to share as long as there's perceivable value. And I'm going to show you a little bit later how to apply that in a way that uses the golden rule of personalization, as I call it. I'm going to show you that a little bit later. So unfortunately, even though you may understand customers, companies often design loyalty programs using outdated vision and flawed purposes. But reality is, these things can be fixed. And I'm going to show you how to fix them. But if I don't show you how they're flawed, you may say, well, Brendan, that's a great idea to do all that, but I'm going to stick with the way we've been doing it. Let me show you why how you've been doing it is going to have either minimal results or actually hurt the experiences that your customers have or create bad experiences for your customers. Let's take a look at segmentation and how that works for just a second. Now you may say, I don't need to look at segmentation. I know how it works. Well, just bear with me for just a moment here. Let me show you this. So take me, for example. Let's say that I buy a toaster. The way that segmentation works is it looks at 10,000 other people that bought toasters. Let's pretend each one of these heads represents 1,000 people. That would be 10,000 people, right? But these are 10,000 people that bought that same toaster, but they bought something else, right? Of those 10,000 people, maybe 3,000 people bought toast tongs. That's what those are over there on the right. Okay, great. So what about the other 7,000 people? Well, maybe 2,000 bought a blender. Maybe 1,000 bought a wooden spoon. Maybe 500 bought, a rug, whatever. We go down the chain all the way we go till we get to the 10,000 number, right? All the long tail there. So what do you show me? You show me toast tongs. What does it mean? It means you got it wrong most of the time. See, segmentation doesn't deal with majorities. It deals with major minorities. Right? It deals with a group of people and says, what's the most common action next? But it is rarely as high as 50%, 60%, 70%. It's often a very small major minority of people that do a certain action. So when you're playing Vegas odds like that, it means you get it wrong most of the time. And so what did I say earlier? When you don't get it right, it's not personalization. Right? It's not creating a personalized experience. You're just doing marketing at that point. And I'm being generous, by the way, with the 30%. A lot of major minorities are much smaller than that, which is why you don't get 50, 60, 70% lifts using segmentation. You get 9% lifts and 10% lifts. Now, I don't want anyone to get off this call and say Brennan Witcher from Forrester said segmentation's dead. I am not saying segmentation's dead or that you shouldn't use it. I'm just saying that there's another level to this, which is called individualization. And that's how you can serve customers better. And we're going to get to how to do that a little bit later in the presentation. The second thing that people do is they try to use something like a single data point to create a very personalized, relevant experience for consumers and great value through a very complex customer journey. Now, I don't have a deep background in statistics, and maybe some of you do, but from what I remember, a single data point has a very low statistical value. It may even be zero, right? And yet we try to take this and say, hey, we know this customer. This is this persona, right? Here's an example. I've bought yoga pants. It is amazing how many companies still talk to me like I'm a soccer mom simply because I bought yoga pants, right? But because you know one thing about the customer really doesn't mean you know anything. That's not just me. That's math would tell you that. Math is going to tell you really don't know the customer. So you end up talking to the customer in the wrong way for a long period of time because you're misunderstanding the signal from that customer. So we need to understand customers beyond single data points or single pieces of information. The third flaw that I see is lots of companies try to create value in this low value way. Now, I took it away from loyalty programs for a moment, but let me just show you, for example, what these low quality things are, right? Saying that it's Friday on the app, or showing a picture of my face, is actually my coworker, Peter Wanamaker, or saying happy birthday to me, right? Now, I've listened to a lot of earnings calls over the years, and I've never heard a CEO get on an earnings call and say, hey, we started saying happy birthday and sales went up 5%. Never has happened. And the reason that's never happened is because nobody comes to your website to be told happy birthday. We have friends for that, right? And family. So the reality is that doing things like this, you may say, well, what's the harm? Well, the harm is that you worked on something that didn't matter. It didn't make any difference, right? You checked the box on what you called personalization, but the reality is it didn't create business outcomes. So it is a waste of time for you. It is a waste of time for the consumer. It's a waste of time for everybody to do these low value things when people are part of a loyalty program. Don't do these. I mean, you can do them if you've got nothing else to do. But in truth, you're trying to create business outcomes and business results. So do things that have perceivable value that are relevant to the customer journey, not just little surprise and delight moments. And I'm going to show you later why that's just so important. So it's a waste of everybody's time. Don't do those things unless you have the resources and time and nothing else to do, which I'm sure none of you qualify under that. So how much companies rethink their loyalty programs to use them as competitive? How must companies do this? Well, let's start with this, okay? This is where the solution lies. You probably up to this point, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, so what I got to do? Here's what you got to do. First, you have to identify customers. You need to know it's Brendan. You need to know it's me here and here and here and here, wherever I am, right? And that's the point of a loyalty program. When I ask audiences, what is the most successful loyalty program in the world? It is amazing to me how many people say things like Starbucks and Delta and all this. You know who it is? It's Amazon. Amazon has the most successful loyalty program out there. Why? Because it identifies customers, keeps them engaged, drives sales and keeps them identified. Like I always say, no one ever logs out of Amazon, right? No one ever does. If you have an account with Amazon, you probably don't log out. Why? Because there's too much value being logged in. There's too much value for Amazon knowing who you are, which is the purpose of a loyalty program. The purpose is to say, we want to get to know you as a person, and that's why we want you to self-identify. In addition to that, there's a depth field here, which is the more you understand each customer, the more effective engagements will be. Unfortunately, I find that most companies don't even have a strategy for understanding customers. Their entire data strategy sits around the idea of putting things in a data lake or using data that they have and going with that, right? That's not a real data strategy. I'm going to talk later about how you build a data strategy for loyalty programs in the recommendations. So how can loyalty help achieve a better view of the customer? Well, the reality is we're leaving digital fingerprints everywhere, who we are, what we're interested in, and what we care about through all these touch points, and they're growing. As you can see here, I've listed just a bunch of touch points that can be digitized. These locations can be both places for delivering engagement and information, but they can also be places where you learn about the customer. There might be something that at a certain point in time in the journey, it's the right time to ask a customer a certain question about something. But we are constantly engaging with brands through different ways. And it's the collection of those things. It's the bringing together of data to see one view of that customer is really the key and core to being able to serve customers in a way by keeping up with their needs and their preferences throughout the customer journey at different points in that journey. Unfortunately, most companies, they don't really design these touch points in order to understand these needs and preferences and pain points. This creates a form of digital blindness that inhibits their ability to properly design experiences for each customer. And what I'm really talking about here, I said I would talk earlier about individualization and its relationship to segmentation. So I said, segmentation is not dead. It's not going away. It's all good. That's fine. Stick with segmentation, but don't look at it as the North Star. The North Star of creating relevancy and value for customers is individualization. And there are companies out there that are doing this. I'm going to show you some examples of companies doing it very well, actually, later in the presentation. But it also happens over time. And what I mean by that is you don't do individualization on a Monday and you're done by Friday, right? Like that doesn't really work that way. Most companies that I know have a roadmap of 1, 2, and 3 years to get to this state. Because what you're looking at are individual touch points, and using those individual touch points, say, here we're going to do individualization, here we're going to do segmentation, here we're going to do no segmentation or whatever it is, and looking at that customer journey map a little bit differently. Rather than saying, what are we going to deliver? You also asking, what are we going to collect? What are we going to learn? What are we going to understand? Right? How do we get people to become members of the loyalty program here, 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 and here? And how do we deliver value here, 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 and here throughout that journey? So here are the 5 elements of that you need to think about as you're moving through this. First, think about customers as profiles, not personas, right? Think about their profiles. Think about how much you know and don't really know about the customer. So I'm an old SQL database guy. I used to run the CRM group and all that kind of stuff. So I know how to pull in the database. And I often ask my organizations that I'm working with to please, print out their customer database. Now, I don't want to see the rows because it's none of my business who their customers are, but I look at the column headers and I'm looking for things like, what's this person's favorite day of the week to engage our brand? How many times do they use the app? Who's their favorite associate to deal with? How many times do they call the call center? What was the last topic in the call center? Because the thing of it is, if you don't capture this information, you can't use it, right? But there are ways to use it if you have it. It's just a matter of designing it to get the data in first. And I'm going to show you later again how that kind of works in the recommendations. Number 2 is you have to be able to assess data in real time. Okay. And you got to be able to calculate intent. It is ridiculous to say we can keep pace with the customer based on speaking to them about the thing they showed us 3 months ago, right? That doesn't make any sense. I want you to imagine walking into a store, for example, and an associate says, hey, I remember last month you were here looking at toasters. You want to go look at toasters? And you go, no, I want to look at blenders today. And they say, yeah, let's go look at toasters. You're like, wait a minute, hang on a second. And yet our digital tools do that today, right? They don't look in real time at what we're showing we really care about, right? What is my needs right now? And a loyalty program can tie directly to those needs, especially if they're clear and especially if a consumer is able to talk to the brand through dialogue and through a voice of the customer sort of interactions that we can build for them. Along those same lines, we need to be able to create those experiences across screens and channels in equal ways that creates sort of a continuous conversation with the customer, not just consistent, but more continuous. If I do something here, it changes here, it changes here. But that also requires this 4th hidden wall, the 3rd hidden wall. And screens and channels are easy, but this 3rd hidden wall is number 4 on the list, which is creating the pipes that allows this all to happen. Again, this isn't sexy work. It's not a lot of fun, but the reality is you can't keep in lockstep with the customer if you don't have data flowing in real time from system to system, but even from technology to technology. Remember earlier when I was talking about a bank and looking at a virtual agent talking to me about my account? Well, let's say I asked that virtual agent about 529 college savings plans, right? Great, perfect. Probably answer my questions very well. What happens when I close down that virtual agent and I start perusing the site? Do I start getting product recommendations about 529 college savings plans? Probably not. Why? Because it's two different vendors, right? And they don't talk to each other. So I'm not staying in lockstep with the customer. So this is invisible wall that exists even within a single channel where the technologies themselves can create blockage and create this inability to serve the customer in a continuous way. And that's key to fix as well. Finally, on this fifth step for doing individualization, content intelligence is just as important as customer intelligence. Remembering knowing 50 things about the customer is great, but if you only have 5 or 6 assets or 5 or 6 ways of talking to the customer, you really can't create a relevant experience for them. And so what I encourage you to do is to work with your content teams, the teams that tag items, the teams that create assets for you. Tell them what your strategy is. Say, this is what we're trying to deliver in value for our customers. How do you feel like we can present that? What kind of content can we create so that we can operate in real time and deliver the right content with the right message to the right customer at the right time? That's part of that team as well. And the ability to do that is a lot about having content intelligence aligned with customer intelligence. Now, there are 3 systems you need to do. And I've shown this slide so many times over my career, and it's amazing how many people go, now I see we don't have the things on the left. Yes, right? You probably have lots of things on the right. The systems of automation are something that connect these. They usually live with things on the right or things on the left. But if you don't have as much of a robust capabilities on the things on the left, which is systems of insights, then you can't really do the systems of engagement to the degree that you need to do. In fact, think of it this way. The stuff on the left, that's your gasoline. The stuff on the right, those are your engines, right? And the quality of how your engine runs is going to depend entirely on the quality of gasoline you put into it. And age, gender, and zip code just aren't going to do it these days. We need to be able to get better understanding of customers, and that's that data. Because data is the key. Let me tell you something. If you're going to make decisions in an organization, lots of companies forget that at the core of what you do, you have to understand, here's what's happened. Here's what the customer did. Here's what our business did. Here's what the engagement looked like, whatever that data is. But then insights is how you translate that into what it means. Again, you need tools to do that. But when you take action, the only way to take action is when you've built off those 2 things and use predictive and prescriptive tools to be able to do that. Now, that's really the power of AI machine learning. We're getting to more prescriptive tools where instead of me putting in a bunch of variables about loyalty customers, the tools themselves look at loyalty customers and say, did you know that your loyalty customers happen to do this, 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 and this? And it will prescribe an action that you should take in order to achieve a business outcome, whether that's top line revenue, customer retention, bottom line margin, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And that's where we're heading. So if you're not good at working with data yet, I'm giving you a snapshot of where we currently exist. We're currently existing in a world where we're developing prescriptive tools, and being a master of data is the first step of getting there. So you're in some ways, you're a little bit behind already if you haven't started, but it's not too late. And I would suggest that you kind of work with this and be able to apply it to your business, because that's where we're going. Now, I always get the question, but Brendan, we're going to creep out customers. So let me tell you something. I don't want you creeping out customers. I absolutely don't want you doing that. And what I'm going to do is going to show you here how you avoid that. You got to follow the golden rule of personalization. Okay. You have to be overt when collecting data and covert when delivering personalization. Now, if I said to you, hey, I got a good idea. Let me make this suggestion. Why don't you ask your customers? Let's say you're in fashion. I say, ask your customers their body type. You'd be like, you're crazy. We're not going to ask customers their body type. They will be creeped out. Okay, here's an example of how that works, right? By showing the value, saying, if you show us your body type or tell us your body type, we will then show you the things that work for you, and then we will be able to serve you better, right? This is the idea of creating value in exchange for information. You have to do it up front. This is being overt about the collection of data, being obvious about why you're asking. No matter what that question is, you should be clear to the customer why you're asking that question so that they do it. Now, on the flip side, you have to do two things. One, you have to do what you said you're going to do, right? So you can't just collect data and do nothing about it. You actually have to create the experience. But in addition to that, you also have to be able to just turn the switch off and say, we're not going to say every time a person comes to our website, hey, we know you're an extra large, so this is the experience we're going to show you. No. Turn it off and just deliver the experience. That's the key. So the way to avoid the creep factor is be overt in collecting data, covert in delivering personalization, because we love happy coincidences. I can't tell you the number of times you people probably walk by displays, and because you're either a male or female, you see what's on the screen because you're a male or female. You have no idea that happens, but there's a camera sensing your gender and it's showing you that. If it gets it wrong, who cares? You have no idea that it's happening. But that's personalization done in a very covert way. Now, you may say that's creepy, but it can't be creepy because you don't know what's happening. Great personalization, great experiences, even in loyalty programs, just are not clear to the customer that that's personalized. They just say, you know what, that just worked for me. That's exactly what I need to hear. I saw exactly what I wanted. It was a great experience. And that's the key to doing that. So who's doing this well? Well, there's lots of companies doing this well. But remember, it's not a revolution, it's an evolution. And so there are parts and pieces of this that companies do well, but there's other parts they still have to work on. It would be hypocritical for me to say this is a 1, 2, or 3 year roadmap and then say, oh, but everyone's doing it well. Well, that wouldn't make any sense, right? So let me show you some examples of different industries of people that have the right idea that you can apply to your business and think about how their philosophy and their vision and their strategy could be applied to the way that your customers engage you. Many of you probably have payments apps for coffee houses like Pete's Coffee or Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, right? And you think you have a payments app. You don't have a payments app. You have a customer data capturing machine. And these companies learn everything they need to know about you to create more relevant experiences for you. This is about a strategy, right? Think about how many people were paying cash before this app came out, right? So now Starbucks understands you. They know when you drink, what you don't drink, right? I stopped getting promotions for tea after I started using the app because I don't drink tea, right? So that makes sense, right? So there was an opportunity cost that they were missing or they had by showing me tea when in fact I drink coffee. Just as an example, very basic, very simple way of engaging. Second is a company like Marriott, capturing real-time voice of the customer by leveraging a common household device. You may recognize this device. Some of you probably have this device, right? But thinking about, okay, how is it appropriate? Where is the right place to collect information about a customer? Most of you would not say the hotel room is the right place to learn about our customers, right? But here it's okay. Why? Because there's permission, right? I'm saying, hey, I want you to know this. I need this. I need that. I'm looking for the weather. Okay, I'm leaving the building. You know, that kind of thing. You can apply certain things by the way that I talk to a device, right? And so you're able to learn about the customer, their needs, their wants, what they value, so that the next experience can be better for them, right? If I say I want extra pillows in my room through the device, guess what? If I come back to Marriott, maybe there'll be extra pillows sitting there. Like that's an example of having a data point that is used to create better experiences. Fabletics is a fascinating company that I really enjoy covering and talking to, but they build customer journeys specifically for the purpose of understanding customers to create better experiences for them. If you go to a Fabletics store and go to a dressing room, they'll ask you for your email address and scan the items that you're going to bring in with you. Now, that's not that creepy because we actually do that kind of in a way anyway. We get a number and the customer kind of looks at us and says, okay, great, you're going in, right? Security features kind of thing. The thing is, their competitor writes your name on a whiteboard. Now, who has a competitive advantage, Fabletics or the competitor? Well, have you ever tried to get data out of a dry eraser? It's a very difficult task. And Fabletics has a big advantage because they don't use that data in the store. This is what I mean about using data in one place or getting it in one place, using it in another. They use it in their email campaigns after you visit the store. And those emails are far more relevant to you because of that, because they had a data strategy than the company that writes your name on a whiteboard who still doesn't know what to talk to you about. Just an example of using data correctly to create value. JetBlue, if you've been on a plane lately, which you probably haven't, but if you have, you might, and you've been on JetBlue, you might have had this experience. I did. I actually took this photo from my seat. This is a survey that they'll give you saying, well, what do you like, what you don't like? You know, they're trying to learn about you in order to make recommendations to you. To better understand you, right? And so this is an example of being able to say, you know, we want to talk to you. We want to create a dialogue with you rather than guess what we might be interested in. And finally, Sephora is a great example of a company that's done a fantastic job of creating great experiences across screens, across channels by learning about the individual customer. In fact, before the pandemic, I was at a conference and the CTO of Sephora at the time hit me on the shoulder and said, hey, you're going to love this presentation. So I was like, oh, great. So they went up there for 45 minutes and never once talked about segmentation. They're solely focused on the individual. Like if you think about their beauty stations in their stores, and I did this because I'm dedicated to my job. I'm an Autumn. You may not know that, but I'm an Autumn. And the women had a great time with me. But at the end of it, they said, hey, would you like to give us your email address and we'll send you, or we'll store this information for you? I'll be like, yeah, I do. I want this information, right? It's of value to me now, right? And so they have a strategy for this, for collecting information, but then they tie it to the app. You can see right there, Brennan Witcher in the middle. I don't lie about these things. Beauty Insider, that's me. So as you can see, like now with the virtual try-on that's on the right-hand side of this, I can now use that information to jumpstart the virtual app, right? So now I'm creating this connective, omni-channel, relevant experience, right? That might be part of this loyalty program, right? I'm a beauty insider now, right? Just by giving them an email address, I became a beauty insider. That was the entire loyalty program sign up right there, right? I can also book a reservation, again, creating value for me by being a member of this group here. Connecting the app to the store is something they're working on as well. And in addition, they're one of the few companies that I know that's actually using the website as a place to create dialogues with customers. How many times do you go to a website and your entire ability to tell the company what you're interested in is the search box? Why don't we talk to customers more? When someone walks in a store, people will say, what can I help you with? And yet we're hesitant to do that on websites. So I would encourage you to create more tools and functionality, whether you're a bank, insurance company, whatever it is, where customers can engage with you and say, here's what I want, here's what I need, here's what I care about. Because those are the things that really matter and how you're going to win customers today. So what do you need to do? What are the steps going forward? Here are the 5 things. I've already talked to you about the 5 elements of individualization. Those are more the tactical, sort of down to the nuts and bolts. But here's the strategic things that you need to do that I find that most organizations have not done when they think about their loyalty programs. Okay. 1, challenge your digital strategy. Identify where you're confusing customer obsession and company obsession. Okay. I will tell you this as someone who's been an analyst for 7 years. I worked with 57 of the top Fortune 100 companies in this country. And I will tell you that you will be the same company next year if all you do is think, I can just buy technology and everything will be fixed. I am sharing information with you today. We are sharing information with you today that you should bring into the organization, because if you don't fix your culture and your vision around these things, or the organizational silos, which I've called out many times, how those need to be broken down, and you don't have the right metrics to measure success, then you're going to be the same company next year than you are this year. This is not just a technology problem. It's a vision problem. It's an organizational problem. And you fix those first, then you're going to be able to, or at the same time, rather, you're going to be able to transform your company. 53% of companies say culture, for example, inhibits their ability to digitally transform. 82% say organizational silos. So as you can see, this is a big problem that's not just minor, and it probably sits with you as well. Number 2, elevate your knowledge about customers. Drop your opinions and evolve to a loyalty strategy that is data-led. Now, I said I would tell you how to do a data strategy. Here it is. This is just that simple. I do this exercise with top-line CEOs and executives. I have them fill out Post-it notes and just answer the question, if we knew X, we could do Y. X is the data. Y is the value that customers have told us they're interested in, whether through surveys or their behavior or whatever it is. Here's the X and Y. And I have each person, usually, maybe like 10 or 12 people, let's say, each of them do like maybe 5 to 10 of them, right? And then I take all their Post-it notes when I'm doing this in person, I put it up on a wall and I say, congratulations, you just started a data strategy for the first time ever. Like, this is exactly how you approach it. It's a proactive data strategy. And all the companies I've talked about up to this date have done some form of this exercise by looking at how they can better serve customers. Number 3, review each digital touch point for its ability to both use and collect data through loyalty programs across the enterprise. You probably have initiatives for your loyalty program, but you probably also have initiatives for omnichannel and personalization as well. Those 2 things need to come together, and you need to be a part of those conversations, because you want to create programs that work with channel agnostic consumers who are also digitally savvy and have high expectations. That is the definition of how you serve them through these different initiatives that you have. And so make sure you're getting involved in the teams that are working on these programs, understanding them better, and understanding how loyalty and your responsibility for creating loyalty can be affected by the initiatives that they're working on and the investments that they're making. Number 4, add relevancy and value to an individual experiences by listening for conditions they gravitate towards. Let me be super clear. There is no such thing as unconditional love with today's digitally savvy consumers. We respond to conditions. Everything is conditional with us. I know you carry bedding, but the question is, why would I carry bedding from you? That is conditional love. That is conditional loyalty. And that's how we get to being able to serve customers better. Understanding the conditions is the key to being able to create loyalty. Finally, Use opportunities with loyalty programs to create and solve customer pain points before focusing on moments that surprise and delight. Let me give you a hint about something. We do not get surprised and delighted. Many of you probably drive cars. I want you to think about the last time you got out of your car, turned around and said, thank you, car. I love you so much. Thank you for getting me where I needed to go. No, you didn't do that, right? Nobody does that. Maybe some Tesla owners, but that's it. Nobody else, right? But if that car broke down and where you needed to go, would you have some choice words for that car? Yes, you would. Would you remember that moment? Yes, you would. We are far more influenced by pain than we are by pleasure. That's not me. That's every study ever done about us. And when you could put a robot or a virtual agent that says, hi, Mr. Witcher, blah, blah, blah. Great. That's fine. But the reality is the same thing as a happy birthday thing. That's great. But I have pain points, right? Your 136 emails to me a year that are relevant. That's a pain point. I walk into one of your physical environments and your associates know nothing about your products or less than I do. That's a pain point. Use loyalty programs to create solutions for the pain points customers have in your specific customer journey. Think of the payments app. Think of all the things that I've shown you earlier about how companies are able to do that. Ultimately, we're trying to create these great shopping cart moments for customers. As I always say, most people didn't have Amazon steal someone away. You lost the customer because you weren't delivering the experience they wanted, and Amazon was there to pick up the slack. This is a retail example. I know that not all of you are retail, but just an example. But companies today need to make sure that they're creating those experiences for each individual customer in order to create that retainment of them and to win them and create top of mind awareness of that brand over the long term with your customers. So thanks for your time today. I'm going to stick around here and we're going to see if there's any questions and things, but I'm going to hand it over to Aaron for now. Thanks for the time. And you're on, there you go.
And I'm on mute, of course I am. Always love hearing from you, Brendan. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing all those amazing insights with all of us today. Always inspired, took a whole page of notes as always. So what we plan to do next, and I know we promised you 45 minutes and we're at that mark, but if you want to stick around and bear with me on a few more, we have some Annex Cloud client examples that bring some of these things to life that Brendan was talking about that we'd love to be able to share with you. The first, and I'll try to move pretty quickly with it. The first is TaylorMade. They are a manufacturer of golf clubs, which you guys probably all know, founded back in 1979 with a vision to create a new type of golf club. They wanted to create a wood that wasn't made of wood. And back then that was pretty innovative. The organization was an innovator then and continues to be one as they go forward and continue to have innovation as a pillar. And so today they're now a global brand with a strong commitment to their customer, individualized experiences, and continuing on that innovation path. As an example, with them, you can buy personalized or even customized golf clubs. I think if you want to go to the next page, you can, Brendan, thank you. As a manufacturer, they don't get to see their customers. So Brendan gave a lot of examples of retailers where you could be in there, you could see people, but that's not the case with a company like TaylorMade. So some people are purchasing online, but most of them are going through a favorite golf pro or through sporting goods stores. So to get to know who their customers are and get to understand them a little bit better so that they could develop more of those individualized experiences, they decided to create a loyalty program to engage with all the customers, wherever and however they are purchasing. They're using a program in many ways to build this engagement. One of the things that they've done that wasn't necessarily tied to the loyalty program is they created a virtual clubhouse. Anybody that golfs know that there's a lot of fun that happens and a lot of social that happens in the clubhouse. They're trying to bring that to life virtually when you go into their clubhouse online, you can get a tutorial on your swing. You can connect with pros that are involved with the TaylorMade brand. You can connect with others. You learn more about different courses, different products, and things like that. So what they're doing is they're utilizing loyalty to bring people into the mix, into the community, and then into the clubhouse to create more of the personal experiences and the bonds. They're also doing something that's pretty interesting is they are using their loyalty members to help them with R&D. So they're really engaging their customers and giving them something that no one else can, in the sense they're helping drive, I guess, the roadmap of what the clubs are going to be like in the future. So what happens there is kind of twofold. One is during the beta test of a new club, they'll bring in some customers, have them try it out, see if it's working, see if it works right. And then if it is great, then they're going to move that product on to actually become a product. And at that point, they're going to offer a pre-order to their favorite loyal, or to their best loyalty members. And so what's so cool about that is that the loyalty member gets to be the first person on the course with the shiny new toy and get to talk about it. And then what TaylorMade gets is they get to engage customers, they get their feedback, make sure that they're creating a product everyone wants. And then in addition, with the help of the loyalty program, these members and customers can go and do ratings and reviews and be advocates essentially for these new clubs. So when TaylorMade does a new launch, it really hits the market fast, because they're leveraging all of their fans from their loyalty program. Another way that they're doing it that I wanted to share is they created an app. They didn't create an app to sell them more things. If you think about TaylorMade and you think about golf clubs, people aren't buying those all the time. It's not a frequent purchase. So how do you keep a customer engaged in between these long transactions, in this long purchase cycle? It's bringing things in day out, and how do you get more ingrained in their life and their lifestyle? So here, TaylorMade knows that they're golfers, so let's create an app that brings the golf courses to the customer all the time. And so it's great because this app has all the different courses. So if you're actually playing one of these courses that are on the app, you can check the yardage, you can log all your scores. But if you're planning a vacation and you say, I don't know, I want to go to Hilton Head Island, and you can go see which courses are there, you can kind of look through the course, look at how hard it is, the yardage, and the things that golfers do, and you can daydream if you want. So there's a lot of different ways you can engage with TaylorMade through this app that has nothing to do with actually purchasing, which is a really great way to engage customers in the long haul, and actually even also collect more data. So now TaylorMade knows where you're golfing, knows where you want to golf. And they can use that data to give you more personalized experiences when you get there and when you come to buy more things. In addition, they began to sell golf balls, as I talked about how they have this long time in between the major purchases. Golf balls now are a reason for people to come back, and they can use the loyalty program to award points and get people using it on an ongoing basis, so that there's a reason to come back. They have actual points in their bank that they can use for golf club purchases in the future. And then the last thing I want to talk about with them is they actually have a club give back program. So if you bring your clubs back, you can get a credit, you can earn points. And again, another reason why you would continue to connect and be with TaylorMade. Moving on then from TaylorMade is Elf Cosmetics. So we know Brendan already talked a little bit about Sephora and how wonderful their program is, which it certainly is. Elf Cosmetics is a manufacturer. So like TaylorMade, they're not able to see their customers. They actually sell through Sephora and Ulta and Target and those. But different than TaylorMade, they also have a much more frequent purchase cycle. Cosmetics is a really hot industry right now, and there's a lot of new entrants and lots of opportunity, but obviously also a lot of competition. And it's often a reason why people want to have a loyalty program, is to kind of put a fence around folks and be different than your competition. In this particular space, everybody has a loyalty initiative. And I don't think it's necessarily for that reason. It's more for the reasons that Brendan has been talking to us about. It's because I want to deliver better experiences, like he explained with Sephora. And what's unique about cosmetics is you can't really go about it, and Brendan and I disagree on this a little bit. Like, he really loves Amazon and thinks the Amazon experience is great. I think they kind of take a guesstimate approach, if you will. And I think that the cosmetics organizations really want to get it right, and they can't guess, because you buy cosmetics based on the color of your skin, the type of skin you have. And so they really need to know you in order to individualize the experiences you have. So very similar to Stitch Fix, these organizations need to get in and really collect the data and understand what it is that that you would want and what you need from a cosmetics company. And in addition to the skin color and your type of skin and that type of thing, a lot of customers today are looking for organic and vegan, and that has a play in the cosmetics area too. So somebody who's vegan, you don't want to offer them products that don't fit that focus. So what we've done with ELF and really why they were looking for loyalty is a way to be able to collect this information. So they launched their beauty squad. They launched it with their website, and they're able to collect a lot of information. When you go in, it's not as extensive as Stitch Fix, but it is extensive. But one of the things they do is they take your picture. So yeah, you think about it, I went through it and I was like, oh my gosh, when am I going to take a picture? But then it dawned on me like, oh yeah, because they want to be able to know what my skin tone is. And sure enough, they collect that information, and then they're able to serve up experiences and products that really make more sense to me. So in addition to collecting that information, delivering those kinds of experiences, what loyalty is also done for ELF that is really important is they extended who they are and who they can talk to. Because if you think about a manufacturer, typically, again, they're not seeing their customers, so they're coming online. You've got all those people, that's great, but what we're seeing is pretty standard even to retail. It's only about 10% of their customers are actually purchasing direct. So about 600,000 of their customers are purchasing direct annually. We have about 2.5 million in their loyalty program today, and the program's still relatively new. They see that number growing to 10 million or more. And so what the loyalty now with Annex Cloud allows them to do is collect information from all of these people that are shopping in some other place that's not owned by this particular brand. And so they do that by an app, and as part of the app, there's a way to take a picture really quickly to scan your receipt. So if you made a purchase at Target of your ELF lipstick, you could just quickly come, you come out of the store, you can take a picture, it all logs it, then they know. Also on the app, to make it seem like it's not an extra step, is there's the ability to do ratings, reviews, share with friends. And as we all know, everybody loves to be able to share the latest, greatest fun thing that they just bought. So it's something that really resonates and people are very engaged with. And additionally, just kind of as maybe almost a side note, and when you're thinking about it from a business perspective, is if you scan that receipt from Target and you see that, okay, they bought lipstick that was ELF, but they bought mascara that was a different brand. And then I have all this additional information from them. Maybe they're vegan and their mascara wasn't. Well, gosh, here's this huge opportunity. Now I can go market them and explain to them about the products that we have that might fit their lifestyle a bit more. So really great opportunity there for them. The one last thing I'd like to say about ELF Quick is that they also, with all this additional information and being able to understand who their customer is better, they're able to extend their brand outside of when people will typically think about cosmetics. So they ran a promotion, you guys probably heard about it, with Chipotle. It was Chipotle and ELF ran a big promotion. I know people came to me and said, oh my gosh, that's so weird. Why would they do that? But I actually think it's quite brilliant because ELF customers are also Chipotle customers. And by connecting the two, ELF now broadens its reach and the customer perception. Now the customer is thinking about ELF in a whole different place. And it's now part of their social environment. And it just becomes part of who they are. So I think that that's a really cool way to use the data that they've collected in the loyalty program. Real quick, the next slide, I'll go through this, but just want to make sure that everybody knows that this isn't only for B2C. B2B too is really seeing an opportunity with loyalty. We are seeing a ton of people come to us that are B2B. I think a lot of what's going on, I think it was happening before the pandemic, but it's even more so now. We all have those expectations that Amazon has created of you're going to be able to deliver this quickly. I can get these certain things, as well as all these other experiences that we're getting. And now people are expecting that when they're purchasing from a B2B perspective. I mean, think of all of us. We're always thinking as consumers, but also buying as B2B. So it's really important for B2B organizations to get that extra data from their customers that they can, and then use it in really meaningful ways to make the purchase easier, provide additional benefits, and really connect, because certainly in a lot of environments, it's more competitive than ever. So it's really important to do that. Quickly, the next slide, just to share 2 quick slides about Annex Cloud here, is we do exactly what Brendan was talking about with our clients. Is we work with you on what is that customer journey, what are all those touch points, what information can you ingest from each of these, digest, and then be able to deliver back to that customer in a real individualized way. If you go to the next slide, Brendan, Annex Cloud is one of these organizations that's super unique in this space. As I mentioned, I've been in loyalty for a really long time, and I actually thought that loyalty technology was just going to be a commodity, and that the way people would buy would just be based on pricing and the people they were meeting with, because all the functionality is the same. And then I met Al and looked at Annex Cloud and what Annex Cloud has, and it's been built in a very different way. It has all the loyalty, but it has this breadth of other features, these 3 in particular, that really help deliver on what we're talking about today. And one is it's modularized. So if you want to do something specific, or call it maybe very basic, no problem, you can do that. If you want to add on points, you want to add on tiers, you want to, dare I say, segment and offer people different benefits or points based on that segmentation, you can do that. So you can get very, very basic to very, very sophisticated, just depending on what you want. So you can start with a Subaru and grow into the Ferrari if you want. We also started as in the social space. So we have a whole social engagement suite that no one else has. So if you want to make those connections to the woman that's an Elf customer that's sitting in a Chipotle hashtagging the promotion, you can collect that, and you are able then to put it in a profile, utilize it, communicate based on that information. We also have a full influencer management module within the platform. So really broad things that we can do and to support you. And then the very last piece is integrations. As Brendan was talking about, you really need this base, collect all this data, and then you need to be able to push it out everywhere that customer is. And we have over 100 predefined integrations, because that's exactly the vision. We want to be able to be that kind of backbone for you and help you deliver those individualized experiences everywhere. So quickly, that's a little bit about Annex Cloud. So thanks for listening. If there's anything else that you need, you feel free to reach out to us and connect with me on LinkedIn. We are, as I mentioned to begin with, we'll give you a copy of the recording and the PowerPoint, and any questions that you guys have asked us, we'll make sure to answer all of them and make sure that everybody has those. And I think that's it for now. Brendan, do you have anything else?
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate the time.
Oh, thank you. You're brilliant. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Take care.